Financial planning is not about being exact because you're never going to get it exact. I had someone reach out to me yesterday who said, LinkedIn video is dead. It's just dead. He's like, I only had so many people.
Done. Do you know how many thousands of dollars I have made from folks who have never engaged in my content but referenced it to me after the fact?
And I think about what I make per month now. That was what I made as an annual salary when I first started out.
If I could just, if we could just get to a point of working together and you trusted me, I think I could change your business. I really do.
Yeah.
Life.
Man, this was awesome stuff. I just gave them some absolute fire that's going to change their lives, and I know they're not going to implement it.
Good Til Cancelled, episode 14. How are you doing? Happy Friday. What's good?
A lot of things are good, man. I mean, music, movies, television shows, sports. We got a lot of good stuff to talk about, but we can save that.
We're jumping right into pop culture. We're not even going to.
No, well, so we can save that for the end. People probably aren't here for the pulp culture references.
Yeah, there's probably better people that are more entertaining shows they could go to for that.
I have one that's going to trigger you though, based upon our conversation of the big three, but we'll save that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get started here. Let's talk a little business, a little shop. I'm going to ask you a question, and we're just going to dive right in here.
Perfect. And I'm ready. I have show notes.
Oh, look at that handwriting. That's know my plan at its finest. Folks who can't see listening, those Catholic school notes right there.
My mom was an English teacher. Dad was a draftsman. Good handwriting was not an option.
You're a portfolio architect.
Exactly. All right. I digress. What is your question?
What keeps advisors plateaued?
I would say largely their processes in a plain office. I think too much time is spent playing office trying to tinker around with the newest financial planning software or trying to figure out how they spend 5 hours preparing for a meeting or preparing to call someone. Just too much lost time and silly processes. I would think that's the main thing. And then from what you do from a marketing standpoint, so many advisors don't do any marketing at all. And you can really only go so far just with your core group of clients that you already have and how many people that they can possibly refer to you.
I find this fascinating, and this is nothing to do with marketing, really. I'm interested in the 40-year-old, 45-year-old advisor has a decent business, puts food on the table, things are good, but wants to grow. The thing has just plateaued, right? And I'm fascinated as to what that person does on a daily. Right? Do they come into the office and shuffle things around? I'm generally curious, genuinely curious. I don't know, and I don't mean to sound patronizing. I'm actually curious about it.
I think when you don't have new people that are constantly entering your world and having new conversations with them, it gets really hard for advisors. And I know when I was, a really young advisor, I had a lot of bad habits that I had a manager that basically just beat out of me. I mean, I remember at the bank how I would waste time. I knew I had to call certain people, but instead of just calling Mr. and Mrs. Burns, I would, go through all of their account transactions and all right, what's their social security deposit? Where do they live? How much is their house worth? I would do all of these things that would waste time instead of just picking up the phone and calling them. And at some point that got beat out of me because I would not be where I am today had I continued on that path of delaying the work.
Yeah, I would find that's so counter you. Nick, how was today? It's good. I just combed through Mr. and Mrs. Smith's financials for 6 hours.
Yeah, I made 6 calls because it took me 90 minutes of prep to do 6 calls, 5 of which were voicemails. So, I mean, eventually that got beat out of me, and thank goodness for Janice Lawrence for probably saving my life and changing.
Shout out, Janice.
Changing the trajectory of my career. I'd probably still be sitting in a bank branch as a personal banker somewhere.
If we tagged Janice Lawrence in this, would that be?
We should definitely. She's on Facebook for sure. She's now retired, animal lover.
She gets a ping while she's feeding her cats.
I know.
Nick dropped a dime.
Oh, Janice is the best. I mean, I wouldn't be where I'm at without her. That's for sure. I'm completely convinced that was like a divine intervention that God sent her to beat all the laziness out of. And I don't know if it was laziness. It was just procrastination. I never liked being on the phone. And at that time, you kind of had to be on the phone. And I think today, there's still advisors that don't like being on the phone, even if it's the anxiety from calling their own clients.
So would you say that, because I hear what you're saying, and if we rewound time and you didn't have all these areas in which an advisor could waste time, right? They might be forced to go back to some of those behaviors, which might generate new conversations, which is banging the phones. Do you find the amount of options that are put in front of us on a daily perpetuate this plateau?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, we get anywhere from 300 to 400 emails a day. It's a lot, most of which are from product partners or some new technology that's coming out there. And that doesn't even include like LinkedIn DM pitches or anything like that. So, I mean, there's so many ways that you can waste time. You could have, breakfast and lunch with wholesalers probably every day of the week. There's one firm that I know of locally that they have basically a cafeteria set up in their office because they have a wholesaler come in literally 4 to 5 days a week, bring in lunch and do like a pitch for all the advisors in the office. And they leave all their product material. So, I mean, you can waste easily 2 to 3 hours a day just talking with product partners, and you may or may not ever work with them, and they may not even give you any ideas that can improve your business, not to mention all of the fintechy stuff. And, we've pretty much stripped out all of the fintech from our business other than a legal pad, a pencil, and a calculator,
So that's interesting. Walk me through that a little bit. And I don't mean to bore people with this, but like that was fintech in your business has been such a area of focus. Like we've got to streamline this. We want to make this simpler for our clients. We want to make this simpler for ourselves. Like walk me through, you stripped it out.
Yeah, so it was really hard to get data out of the software that you could trust. Number one, so Kerry Brownlee, who's an advisor in the Georgia area that I really like and admire, ex-military, and he talks about there was a financial planning software that he used, and he printed out a document. And what's the opposite of landscape when you print? Like
Portrait?
portrait. Yeah. So he prints it. He prints something off portrait. And let's say the answer was the client needed to save $350 a month to fund their children's education. He didn't like aesthetically how it printed out. So he decided, you know what, this is going to look better on landscape. So he printed it out on landscape and he got a completely different output from the financial planning software. Well, whether you print it in portrait or landscape, the financial planning outcome should be no different. But for whatever reason, the numbers were different. And so I think too often in these things, it's way, way too overcomplicated and you can't really trust the output. And what he has done for his clients is he has created an Excel spreadsheet for basically every household that he serves with just different templates, and he can plug in the formulas that he knows are correct. And I think that's good enough. And I think financial planning is not about being exact because you're never going to get it exact. What you're trying to get is close. And so we can get close for 99% of the situations just using a pen, a paper, and an HP 12C calculator, right? We're just trying to get in the right ballpark because we don't think there's a lot of value in a one-time financial plan. We think that there is value in the ongoing financial planning where you're acting upon the financial plan. Because if you think about where you want to be in 20 years, we're going to be wildly off just because the world's going to look drastically different in 20 years than it does today. But we can make some assumptions today about where we want to get in 20 years. And we're just trying to land the plane close. We're not trying to pick what terminal we're ultimately going to be at when we check in at the airport. We're just trying to get the plane close to the airport. And I think when we remember that, we can make our financial planning lives a lot simpler to give people a framework for getting the plane to the airport, not checking into the terminal 20 years in advance.
No pun intended here. How does that analogy land with clients?
I don't know that I've actually even used that analogy so much recently, probably because I flew for the first time in like 5 years recently that I've been thinking about airports and things like that. But we often talk about just the fact, I think it gives peace of mind to people because when you're planning for something 20 years out, 30 years out into the future, planning for a 3 decade retirement, it's really hard to wrap your head around what that might look like. And we don't want to work with people who just want a one-time plan in the first place. So hopefully there's been some, through marketing efforts and things like that, we're not meeting with those people in the first place, but people want that kind of trusted relationship that they can stay on path or approach a path that we're comfortable with.
On this note, well, I've got you thinking this way. And I've asked you this in some fashion before, but I want to ask it again, a little bit more direct. What would you tell that 40-year-old, that 45-year-old, that 50-year-old advisor who has found themselves, they're listening to this and they have plateaued and they find themselves, if they're being honest with themselves, spinning their wheels on some of these activities that may be time sucks?
First of all, I would do a time audit. I would get super granular. I would say, all right, for the next week, I'm going to track every 15-minute increment of my day. And then at the end of that week, reflect, look back upon it, and actually see where your time is being spent. And then at that point, you can make some educated decisions about how am I spending my time? Am I being efficient in client meetings? Am I spending way too much preparing for meetings? Most of our meetings, for the most part, our prep is 5 to 10 minutes because we've taken really good notes. We have a process to capture data in real time. So a lot of people are prepping for 60, 90 minutes, which is just because all of this financial planning software is super, super complicated. So I would do a time audit, and then I would try to strip out everywhere where there's a time suck and try to just say, all right, let's forget everything that I think I know, and let's just take this back to the bare bones basics. And I think when you do that, that is where you have some momentum, where you can see some change and you can see some growth. But you have to be willing to do a real evaluation of where you're at, where you're spending your time, to where you can make informed decisions on how you might be able to do it differently.
What would you say is going on at Know My Plan right now that you guys are really like, you feel like you got this thing honed in, you've got a good process in place, you and the team are bought in, you're doing well and it's working, versus maybe some things that you guys want to improve on that are down the road?
So one of the things, is kind of along with the time aspect of it, since we brought on Will, we have, at least two people on every conversation for the most part. And, we have someone that's
And for those listening, Will is,
Will Miller.
but he's doing what?
Yeah. He's an advisor really operating in an administrative capacity for us. And he's been really good operationally. He's kind of like our little Know My Plan project manager. He may not like that title, but I think he's a really good project
We'll
manager.
just scrap the word little. We'll bleep that. He's the Know My Plan project.
Man. Yeah. 28, big beard. He's a manly man. Anyhow, so we're doing these meetings and he's taking notes. And one of the things that's great about the notes is because I don't have to take notes, I can just have a conversation with someone and I feel like be more present, is that he can, literally type out exactly the questions that people ask and he can take down exactly their responses to things. And I think that's really helpful. And after the meeting, I don't have to sit down for 40 minutes and try to type out the notes. By the time the meeting's over, the notes are done and we can all move on. So we don't lose any speed. So I think that's one of the things that we're doing really well, is because he's capturing everything that's happening in that conversation. I can be fully present and not distracted. And I think that makes a huge difference because some people are trying to take notes during the meeting, whatever the case might be. And it's really hard to be fully present if you're trying to think in your head, all right, how do I remember this? How do I capture this? And I have kind of a weird memory where usually if I hear it and I see somebody say it, I can kind of pull that back for a pretty long period of time. But it's just so great from a peace of mind standpoint that I can do 4 or 5 meetings a day and I'm not doing 3 hours of notes. Because in the old days, I would do 4, 5, 6 meetings a day, and then I'd lose 3 hours of my day, recapping what we just talked about.
Double-edged sword too, or not double-edged sword. It's a that's the wrong word. It's compounded, right? Not only can you be present, but then you have confidence in your presence, and then you have the confidence that after the meeting, you've got this nicely put together portfolio of notes that captured things in real time, and there's no potential memory loss of what happened over the last hour.
Yeah, and project manager Will has created a really nice workflow for our conversation. So we have it, broken down into nice sections with headings. The first question that we generally ask is in a review is, do you have any questions, concerns, airing of grievances? Right. So we have that section right at the top. What
I'm glad
question?
you asked airing of grievances. No, my man. You sons of
Well,
bitches.
we always ask if there is, grievances that need to be aired because you don't want anything to linger. or you try not to let anything linger. If there's a problem, if there's an issue, let's just get it out. Let's deal with it and let's decide if it's a real issue or if we're just having a bad day or whatever the case. And if there are the airing of the grievances, we forward to the good people in compliance and make them aware of it and all those good things. But we don't want things to linger, and we want to give people a chance to talk. And so I think when we have those sections in place, it's really easy to go back and say, all right, we talked with Erica 3 years ago. Boom, we have that nicely formatted. So he's taken the things that we've done and made them better, more uniform, and just you can quickly glance at something and get a recap. So it makes me a lot more efficient with my time. It gives me more time to, to write the newsletters and, share insights, which I'm super passionate about, which is help our business and help bring people to know my plan. So like you said, it's all compounding, it's all stacking bricks.
I wonder how much of this, I mean, and I'll give you a turn at the interview mic here, but I appreciate you being forthcoming with all this. I wonder how much of this you held yourself back from, if you're being genuine, like, because you've got to put out the money, right? The risk to take these jumps, which then you hope, you know, you can reap the rewards of, which you have and you're doing. I don't want to speak for you, but it sounds like you're doing, you guys are doing a good job. So, it's not easy just to go out. Like advisors might be like, do I take the risk to hire Will? Like that's tough, right?
Yeah, and advisors have spent so much money on a lot of silly things, right? That sometimes when the obvious things are right in front of you, for whatever reason, you don't want to do it. But yeah, so we've hired Will, we've given him a raise, and we're at a point where our growth has ramped at a rate that, as we've paid Will, as we've given him a raise, that like it doesn't affect our bottom line. We're growing faster than his salary, so that's fine. We don't even really miss it. But for us, it wasn't so much necessarily about the money. It was the freeing up the time to do other things. And then it was also about, for kind of each of us, myself and Jeff, my business partner, there's probably certain things that we each excelled at. And there was also certain things that we didn't enjoy. And so we've both tried to take things off of our plate that we didn't enjoy or weren't as good at. And I'm one of those people, like, when I write something, I just like to write it down. I want to get it on paper and just like send it out, and like you can work on it and you can BASF it and make it better. I'm not the person who's going to sit down and create like a workflow of like, these are the 10 steps. We do A, then we do B. And I'm probably not the person who you want going through those 10 steps. But Will's mind works like that, and he can do that. Jeff really enjoys trading and portfolio management. He's great at that. And at the beginning, I was a super control freak and I tried to do everything and hold on to everything. And Jeff came and said, hey, I really like the trading. I like the portfolio management. I think I could do this. And I was like, well, it really doesn't make sense for me to do everything. That's probably something that he can own. And he loves it. And he excels at it. And he listens to all the quarterly reports from the companies in the portfolio and things like that, and really gets into it and has some great thoughts and insights, where that doesn't interest me the same way, right? If I had to put all my money into a blind trust and I couldn't touch it for the next 70 years of my life, I would be okay with it. Like, let's just pick a couple of index funds and let's call it a day. Let's do an annual rebalance. The portfolio management doesn't interest me like it does him. So part of hiring Will was to, I think, keep my mind more in my quote unquote zone of genius, or at least my zone of maybe averageness, more so, and kind of just take away all the distractions off my plate. And I have plenty of distractions that I put on my plate, like my love of junior college basketball, which I easily spend, 20 plus hours a week on, and all of my kids' different various activities.
I love it. Hey, look, this is a fun episode already. The 20 minutes we're in, because I think there's a lot of nuggets here of, I could just title this like how to improve, how to build, how to grow your business out of a plateaued situation. So this is fun, and I appreciate that. And I could keep digging in, but I'll give you a break on some of it.
We can always dig further. We can jump back into it, but I have all kinds of questions for you. And investments, we always talk about investment behavior a lot. And I think that's kind of maybe the trend of the decade, is more behavioral focused, at least when it comes to financial planning. So you give out a lot of great advice to financial advisors. You do a lot of consulting work as well as doing one-on-one. Have you thought about the behavioral traits of the implementers versus the people that you give the advice to and they're not going to implement? or they're going to go halfway. Like when you give advice to certain people, do you know, like, man, this was awesome stuff. I just gave them some absolute fire that's going to change their lives. And I know they're not going to implement it. Or the opposite. You give the advice and you know, this is freaking fire. And I know they're going to go out and they're going to crush it. Like, have you thought about those behavioral traits?
The traits, no, I haven't thought about at all. Do I know the people? Yes, of course. Like I don't, you couldn't, if you said, Corey, I've got literally a bag, $1 million right here. Can you bucket people into the categories or whatever they are? I would fail and you'd keep your money. Would I know if you said, is he or she going to do this? How's this going to play out? Like, obviously, it's almost like I'm a professor and I know which students are going to show up on time and who's going to be prepared for the exams. Like, I certainly know that.
You know, right?
Yeah, 100. Like after 2 hours with somebody, I'm pretty locked in based on all the I've had thousands. I mean, I've got a PhD in advisor
Advisor
behavior at this
psychology.
point. Yeah. After I know after 2 hours who I can get to move and who I can't. Now, people surprise me, and I love that. Like that makes me the happiest when someone surprises me and
Like the evolution, like just like the change, like
the just dust off moment of like they woke up that day and decided that behavior is no longer going to work and I'm done with that old me and let's do this now. That makes me like super excited and refreshed and I'm optimistic that more advisors and folks can get there because I've seen it. I've seen people be like like I've switched, my frame of mind switched. You fixed me. That's fun. It's not easy or common though. Most common, and which I've shared with you offline, and I'm happy to talk now, is people have been, unfortunately, this industry is so good at not brainwashing, but like getting people into their lane or the lane that this industry wants you in, and people cannot get off that track.
yeah. And I think part of that is getting hooked to the likes, the comments. I had someone reach out to me yesterday who said, you know, LinkedIn video is dead. It's just dead. He's like, I only had so many
Dead.
people.
I'm done.
He's like, I only had so many people view it. I was like, well, how many do you need to view it for the video to be a success?
Great question.
The answer is one for most people, right? If one person sees it who's the right person and they become a client, it's a great video. On the other hand, you could have a million people see it who aren't the right people, who aren't interested in doing business with you, who have no desire to move forward to have a conversation with you. Was the video a success? But I think we're all hooked to the dopamine.
This is amazing. Like, and I'm going to share this, and I do not mean this to sound in any way pretentious, braggadocious, or like in any way like that. But I have to say this, and you can probably understand and relate. Do you know how many thousands of dollars I have made from folks who have never engaged in my content but referenced it to me after the fact?
I would say most of the clients that we have got from LinkedIn specifically, I had no idea that they were following the content, never liked anything, never commented on it. All of a sudden, they just showed up on my calendar because they scheduled an appointment. So you never know in real time.
I love the people who give love. That makes me the happiest. That's so great. Like I thank you. Like thank you for me putting something out and thank you for commenting on it and liking it or engaging with it, giving me a pat on the back, telling me it's cool. Like I love that. Thank you. I will never not love that. That's friendly and I enjoy it. But to sit here and pretend that others don't see it but get value from it is the most ludicrous, wild thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, do you forget that we used to put ads in the yellow pages and you couldn't track how many people looked at Know My Plan on page 332?
Yeah, you know what would be an amazing social experiment is if for like 1 week, all of the social platforms took away the ability to see how many people liked, shared something,
Oh, dude, more than a week. Give it a
commented on
month. It would be so clean and sanitized because everyone would disappear.
it. They're not getting that dopamine hit,
There's
right?
no reason to show up.
But you know, a lot of I mean, most of my stuff that I put on LinkedIn or any of the social platforms don't do well by any sort of modern day metrics. You know, I've never had anything that's gone viral and had hundreds of thousands of views or anything like that. You know, maybe if something had 5,000 views, to me, that would be viral in 2024 Nick Nielsen land. But it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Like I just feel it's about consistency, sharing to the world a little bit about yourself, sharing with the world a little bit about how you work with people and some of the questions they solve or you solve, and you just want to be in the mix when the people have the pain point of the the two or three things. I just think that so many advisors and how you deal with this, they get so wound up about these metrics.
I'm really, I'm over it now. But I did have a moment of like, I was stuck and I was like, I trust these guys. Like, they're good people, right? I'm having conversations with people, they're clients, they're good people, good families, like good humans. And I'm like, I trust you. And I think your clients trust you and like, you're doing really good. You explain to people in a terrific fashion of how to like, it's not timing the market, it's time in the market. Like, ignore the noise. Like, let's build this over the next 25 years. Like, let's do this thing long term and get you set up. And like, I believe in it the most. And they do too. And their clients do too. And then I'm like, all right, let's talk marketing. And then they're, well, this didn't do well. This didn't do well. I didn't get any reaction on this. This isn't doing this. And I'm like, how are you so long term patient over here?
And you're day trading on the other
And
side.
I is literally like, I'd go upstairs and like get a coffee, my wife, I'm talking, I'm like, honey, I don't understand. Like, it's almost like Jekyll and Hyde sometimes.
It really is. It really is. I want to ask you a question about video. I've had a lot of advisors who've reached out to me at various points in their career. This is everything from the young 30-year-old advisor really just kind of getting into the mix. And this is the 60-year-old advisor that wants to do more and wants to grow. And they know they want to do video. They think they need to do video.
Do you like my hat, by the way? I'm kind of feeling my hat today.
I love
No,
that.
no comment by you.
I love the hat.
All
I'm
right.
always a little bit caught off guard when you're not just full Travis Matthew, but
I needed a pat on the back because I was,
anything.
usually you have a hat comment and you didn't have one. And
I'm
this is your
all,
guy too.
I'm too focused on my notes. I'm proud of my notes. I'm color coordinating. I got my highlighter out. Um,
All right, video. I'm sorry.
Video. What are some quick, easy wins? I'm talking like background versus, like I think people are concerned about what does my office look like? Do I need to do it outside? Should I have a plain wall behind me? Like just like aesthetically, give like some financial advisor idiot's guide to creating some simple structure around what they need to do on video.
If you're doing nothing today and you buy into the idea that video is a great long-term play, that it helps make you relatable to folks, that it's accessible, available, and something that you should be doing, and you're ready to get started and you have no idea where to start, I would say the best thing you could do would be to turn your phone around, landscape, film yourself.
East west, not north south, right?
Yep. Landscape, film yourself, and give yourself the grace of keeping it under 2 minutes, but over 1 minute. And I'll explain why. And recap something that has just taken place because you're passionate about it. And that's why I want you to recap it. Now, I don't need you to air out anyone's laundry. But for me, right, let's play this game really quick. This podcast episode ends, and I'm feeling something. I'm either going to do it here, I'll go outside on the patio or wherever I've got some space and I'm not distracted. Hey guys, Corey, just wanted to jump on real quick. Had a fantastic conversation with I'm going to fill in the blanks here. Had a fantastic conversation with an advisor. He or she was asking me about this. Here's how I guided them. Da 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 da. Here's some of the details. Blah 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 blah. Hope you guys have a great day. Talk soon. Right. Okay. Now that's a minute 15-second video. And then the next day, I'm going to jump on, or 2 days later, I'm going to jump on and do another one. And I'm going to try to aim to get 3 of those a week. And I'm going to title that something on, I'm going to put those on YouTube. And I'm also going to use those on LinkedIn. But I'm going to title it something like, daily thoughts or 2-minute thoughts. And I'm going to get myself in a habit of creating those. And if I do that for 2 or 3 weeks, I've then broken down this fear of creating video. I don't have any of the production noise and nonsense that people put in front of them. Every single person listening and watching and in this business has a smartphone, and it's capable of shooting video at a higher rate in reverse camera than what the movies were 10 years ago. So there's no excuses. I'd put that on YouTube. I'd put that on LinkedIn. On YouTube, I would just create a very simple thumbnail where I took a screenshot of myself during the video, put a nice bright title on it, put it on YouTube. And the reason I said landscape is because if you go portrait, it's going to get wonky on YouTube over all right, so there's a couple things here. If it's over 59 seconds, it's going to be a regular video, which I want to be landscape version. If it's under 59 seconds, it's going to be a short, which is also fine, but then it has to be portrait, and then it's not so much searchable and doesn't fit so much within your library. So over a minute, under 2 minutes, landscape, 2 minute recap. That would be how I would get an advisor off the sidelines and out of the fear of creating video.
I think that's amazing advice. And don't do a walk and talk unless you're like in incredible shape or you have like an amazing skill. Like the walk and talks, so many of them end up to me looking like Blair Witch. You know, the camera's doing this. And unless you have one of those, DJI, deals, you can hold it out and it's gonna like adjust the volatility and stuff like that. Just what you said. Have a seat, turn the camera around, tell a quick story, minute plus, in and out.
We all get off of these calls, right? This podcast, I've got 7 notes already. We all get off of this stuff. You get off with a client, some things come up. You've always got some thoughts. And that's why I say do it right away because it's fresh. You don't have to regurgitate or rethink or prep or anything like that. There's no noise in the way. It's all right here and it's quick.
Completely authentic, right? That's like where all the best stuff happens. You haven't had time, you haven't had enough time to start filtering it in your head and going through the process of reformatting it in your head. Just get off the phone, get off the Zoom, whatever it is, client leaves the office. Just recap it, tell the story. Like you said, you're not airing out anybody's dirty laundry or anything like that. But
And here's the thing, like, especially for advisors who are trying to get off the bench with this stuff, like, don't take it back into your DIY production studio either. No one wants to see your clip art name tags come across. Like, just put the damn thing out.
yeah,
Worry about that after 3 weeks. You've done it for 3 weeks, then let's venture into that. And if you're feeling it, you can maybe DIY this. If you want to outsource some of that, which I'd highly recommend for many, because the DIY thing is going to get in your way and you're going to end up breaking your whole process anyways. It's a whole other conversation we can have, but just create 3 weeks of short videos, 3 a week. That's 9 videos, not a big deal. And I think you will be amazed at how this thing comes around and becomes part of your process.
one of my favorite people to follow on social who I think does a really good job with short video is Justin Holtz.
Holtzy.
I
Shout out
find,
Holtzy.
first of all, it's unfair that he's that good looking, but he is. But he's so calm, right? And you just feel like you're just having a cup of coffee with him the way that he talks to you. And his setup isn't anything fancy, right? I mean, I don't think he's doing anything overly produced or anything like that. So I think if somebody is like, oh, I just don't know where to start, what Corey says makes sense, but I'd love to see somebody who's doing it. I would follow Justin Holtz on LinkedIn. I think he's super underrated. I think it's like, finding Giannis in France before he came to the States or
Wow,
something
that's
like
some high
that.
praise. I can't wait to text him after this.
No, I think it's really good. And like he does it in a way where he's really smart, but he's not like snooty.
I've got a meeting with him next week. I'm going to run this clip with him and then let him give me all the excuses as to why he doesn't do more.
He should do more. I mean, if there's anybody who should be doing more, it's him because he's really good at it. And I'm sure the people who are looking for an advisor in the greater uh,
DC.
DC area, they meet him and he's just so laid back and chill. He's smart, but not like over the top. Like, who wouldn't want to work with?
We'll dive in here for a second. The funny thing about Justin is he's got this beautiful property that him and his family have. Talk about shooting locations. The guy's got like everything you could ask for outdoor, like background. It's amazing.
And yet his videos are very simple, does them in his house, and they look great. So
Yes, check out Justin Holtz on LinkedIn. Check him out. Just type him into Google and you'll find him on YouTube as well.
there's beauty in the simplicity of what he does.
Yeah, there's nothing, he doesn't overcomplicate it.
Yeah. Has there ever been an advisor that you've seen on social media? I mean, I know you like Gary Vaynerchuk, but he's not a financial advisor. You work with financial advisors.
Yeah.
But is there a financial advisor, and you can or you don't have to name names, but you're like, man, they would be really awesome to work with? I think that they're a 7. I could make them a 10.
Man, that's a great question.
Like, is there like if you put your little scouting hat on and you're looking for Giannis in France, right? You're Adam Sandler in the movie Hustle.
Yeah.
Like you're like, man, if I could just get my mitts on them, we could do some
There's a couple
serious
people that
damage.
come to mind over the years that I wish I could work closely with and let them trust me. I think that's what you're asking a little bit here.
Yeah,
This is not me gaslighting at all. You were one of them,
I'm just
honest.
here for the compliments.
No, I wish I could give you more time. I do. I'll say this. There are folks that I'm also working with currently that I wish I could give more time to. And that's something I'm trying to figure out in my head as a long-term thing. Like, boy, if I could offload some of this and put more time into this and figure out how that financially makes sense on both parties, I mean, we're not even moving yet, right? There's some of that that goes through my mind because I do see, and this is not about you anymore. Generally, I do see a lot of untapped potential that just needs to continue to be dug up and excavated
Yeah,
and dusted off and refined. That, we're talking like, I know there's some, this is the stupidest analogy of all time, but like I know that there's some real skeleton bones buried, or dinosaur bones buried there. I just need the archaeologists to let us dig,
right.
and we could put this thing in the Smithsonian. Like there's some real, I see talent that I work with today that if I could spend more time with, could take to double their level. I also see folks out there, and I won't name names on them because I don't think it's fair. But I've mentioned them to you in the past. Boy, there are some people that I just think they're getting in their own way, or stuck in the old fashioned behavior, making, I use the term with you, obvious misses. And I'm like, if I could just like, if we could just get to a point of working together and you trusted me, I, I think I could. I don't mean to sound this way to pat myself. I think I could change your business. Like I really do.
Yeah.
Like life,
The obvious misses are so painful, right? It's
it
the
hurts me, dude.
it's the difference in the Division 1 shortstop versus the Double A shortstop versus the Major League shortstop, right? The talent is largely the same. Now, people don't believe me, and I'm telling you, the talent is relatively the same at a high Division 1 shortstop versus a Major League shortstop defensively. Arm strength, range, all that, pretty close. The difference is if you hit 100 ground balls to a really high level Division 1 shortstop, they're going to make the play 92 out of 100 times. To get to the major leagues, you make that play 99 out of 100 times, right? It is just making the routine plays more often. And man, the obvious misses really hurt when you just sail one into the stands for no reason.
You killed it with the timing on that analogy because I have in my notes here two people that said literally the exact same thing over the last week. Jay Wright, the former Nova coach, and LeBron James. And they both said exactly the same thing, which was like, when you get to this level, and Jay Wright's talking, high Division 1 basketball, and LeBron's talking the NBA. So when you get to this level, he's like, everyone's talented. He's like, they're all potential all-stars. He's like, trust me, I've been in the league for 20 years. They're all potential all-stars. He's like, the difference is what I see on the off day and who's not in the gym and who is. Who's eating 2 cheeseburgers and fries and who has a plate of salmon with broccoli. And Jay Wright's saying the same thing. He's like, it's the guys who work hard and you can just tell that they're here and committed and grinding, and the other ones who are dabbling in this because they have the talent and dabbling in this because they've got the attention.
100% agree. I just got back from the junior college, national tournament, and you see it at that level as well. Like one of the coaches who's won a national title, he's won 90% of his games. He doesn't recruit all of the maybe the biggest name guys that you could get at that level because he's more into character. But one of the things that all the Division 1 coaches say, we're telling me, he's like, if you can play for him, first of all, he's a heck of a coach. But second of all, you have to love basketball. Like you have to love it because he won't tolerate anything but that. And that's why he wins 90% of his games year over year after year. And he's always at the national tournament because you can't play for him if you like basketball. You have to love it. And you mentioned LeBron. One of the most, to me, the most amazing feat of LeBron is not the points, it's not the rebounds, it's how he's been able to take care of his body. for 20 plus years. To me, that's the greatest testament to how much he loves the game is he has avoided all of the distractions that life can possibly throw at you at the highest levels. I mean, I think it's absolutely incredible that he's playing at the level that he is at his age.
I want to come back to that. I just don't want to lose momentum on what we were talking about. And I agree with you. It's cliche, and I've always thought it's a cliche thing and like doesn't make sense until it clicked for me and makes sense. And I wonder how you think about this, but like people always say like if you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel like a job, right? Like, and I know that sounds stupid. And like, of course, there are days where like I would much rather be at the lake or just chilling than creating content and sitting in my office creating video or consulting. There's, of course, I'm a human. I would rather go sit on the beach in the Bahamas most of the time. But I tell you this, and I think you probably would agree in your own right with your passion and your expertise. Like, I actually like creating shit that like works and that people get inspired by. Like, it's fun for me. So to be able to do it, like this is back to your love of the game thing. Like, I love the game, and I've just happened to figure out a way to get paid for it.
Right.
So like you mentioned that with LeBron, like it's not the money with a lot of these guys but that's the funny thing is when you love the game and you're committed to it, the money comes. So then it looks like you were just in it for the money, but the money came because you were just so driven to be so awesome at what you love doing.
Yeah. No, I mean, when you love it enough, you're willing to let go of the other things. I mean, that's the reality of it. I remember in high school, we had this athletic code that if, you were drinking or around a party where there was drinking, like you got suspended. I think the first time was 2 games, second time was like a full 365-day calendar year. And I swear to you, I was the only kid in my high school that didn't drink. There was no way that I was going to lose 2 games. No way. Wasn't going to happen, whether it was baseball, basketball, whatever. Not going to happen. But when you love something enough, you're willing to make some sacrifices.
How much do you love what you're doing?
It's the best. And it doesn't feel like work. Like to me, it feels like a really, really fun hobby where you get to help people.
And this is not bullshit. This is like, you actually like,
Love it.
yeah.
Yeah. Feel empty on days where I don't get to talk to people about what's going on in their world or I don't get to meet new people. Like I love meeting new people and hearing their story and figuring out how I might be able to give them some advice and guidance. I mean, I think it's the best.
And that's the difference, Nick, is that, and I'm not saying this that people do this, but some may when they view it as like this could be a lucrative profession and they go with that versus the passion they have of whatever it is originally, the numbers or the idea of helping people put together strong financial like there's just different ways about it. And when you lead with the dollars, it generally ignores the passion.
I think whenever you can find something that you really love, that you happen to think that that falls within your zone of genius, and that happens to be something that other people are interested in, I think the money always comes. I mean, I think about what I make per month now. That was what I made as an annual salary when I first started out. And I can tell you when that number was my annual salary, I was tickled to death and couldn't believe how much money I had. And I was great with that. I was happy when my monthly salary was my annual salary. So now everything on top of that is just gravy. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And it just allows me to help more people and hopefully spread the message at Know My Plan and what we're doing a little bit further.
The kids are going to spend it anyways.
Between the kids and wife and the upcoming trip to Disney, the money is
Yeah, it's just a utility.
the money is already spent. But speaking about loving what you do, I had a conversation this week that I thought was really, really cool, and I think you would enjoy. So I met with this gentleman a couple of years ago, and I just kind of gave him a path. Wasn't really anything I could do for him at that time, but I kind of gave him a framework of the things that he needed to do. It comes back 2 years later. Hey, I did all those things. I'm ready to work with you. Okay. Awesome.
All right, wait, time out. More context. This gentleman was not a client. So lay this out. Not a client,
reached out on LinkedIn.
Consulting.
Reached out on LinkedIn, met with him, did the financial plan for him, gave it to him. We don't charge anybody for the financial plan. It's not my thing. No beef to anybody who does. And just said like, hey, do X, Y, Z, you're an A, let's turn it into an A plus. When you're ready, come back, let me know. So a couple years I kept him on my email list. He basically read all the emails I sent over a couple year period, comes back, checks in, ready to be a client, and we get talking. And one of the things that come up is that goals were really hard for him to quantify. So he's 40. And we're a little bit older, but in that same realm, right? And he knew that he wanted to pay for his daughter's education. Fine, I can relate with that. I want to pay for my kids' college if they so choose to go to college, or college even exists in 20 years. But I don't want that burden to be on my kids. So I connected with him on that.
We'll figure it out in a lot.
We'll figure that out. If they want to skip school, start a job, I'm cool with that too. Start a business, go to whatever, get in a trade.
Work at
But
No My Plan.
yeah, we're going to be a long buy-in for that. Jeff has a son who I'd probably hire today. I don't know that Jeff would hire him, but Nick would hire him. But anyway, he was talking about how much he loved his job. And he said, "Hey, Nick, I can't think about retirement. I can't wrap my head around it because I love what I'm doing too much. I can't imagine never being able to, never putting that away. I want to do that forever." And so this was one of the first things that I felt like we kind of like workshop this together about, well, we know we need to save. We know we have a goal of taking care of your daughter, but like, what is the money for? And, I was just thinking back collaboratively with him about how the last 10 years of my life could not have been plotted out to where I am today, about moving several times, 3 international adoptions. None of those things I could have ever predicted. Those were divine intervention. God put that on our heart. God put that into our lives. But one of the things that came out of this is really what we're saving and investing for is future financial flexibility, because I don't know what the next 10, 20 years are going to look like. And I just love this concept that we kind of collaboratively came up with together of, the future is relatively unknown, but I want to have the flexibility for whatever curveballs the world throws at me. And I just thought that was really refreshing, because I think sometimes people don't reach out to a financial planner because they don't have it like all figured out in their head. They don't know exactly what their goals are. And I think that's okay, because I've talked some about like client John, who popped up out of the recliner one day and said, "Hey, I need $10,000 a month in retirement. I need to be in the mountain house. I want to watch the NHL package. I want to eat really good Indian food,"
One of
right?
my favorite stories of all time. You and his wife are having a nice, productive conversation, and he snaps out of the Burka Lounger.
Yeah, like, John never says anything. But, but then it happened. And what he said was really profound. He knew what he wanted. But I think that happens when you continually act upon a plan for years. Some people might have that vision today at 40, but some people may not have that vision until 57. And the vision that you have at 40 is probably going to change to where it is at 55 or 57. But I just love that concept that, hey, I don't have it all figured out, but I know that I need to start planning and planning for something. So I need future financial flexibility. So what does that look like? How do I avoid the traps of the alternative minimum tax, or how do I avoid paying too much in taxes, or the risk of too much concentration in a single security? I just felt the conversation was really, really refreshing. And I just love the idea that we have to start planning, but we don't necessarily have to have it all figured out. And that might I think that probably keeps some people from reaching out to a financial planner, because they don't have it all figured out. And that's okay. You don't have to wait until you have it all figured out.
That's first of all, kudos to that individual, because I think that's a mature take, even at 40, right? Like we're pretty mature at 40, but like even at 40 to have that sense of like, I don't need like I don't know what I need, but I just want a pilot here.
Yeah, I love that. I thought it was a really refreshing take. It's something that we kind of landed on collaboratively together. And I think some of the benefits that come from working with a financial planner is just having that sounding board to collaborate with, who doesn't necessarily have a direct vested interest in the outcome.
Well, it sure beats having worked together now for quite a while, I see the content, obviously. It sure beats the stressed out individual who's 51 and like, and they still have time, right? That's okay. But like the idea that they've been beating themselves up of like, I'm gonna screw this up. What am I doing? Like I've got 10 years to figure this out. It's so much more relaxing to think of, I'm just gonna have this conversation at 40, and by the time I'm 65, this thing's gonna be well mapped out.
All of the measures that you have to take at 40 versus 50 are going to be less draconian. right? The longer you wait to get in shape, the harder the workout is. Same thing with financial planning. The earlier you can start, the better. The best day that you can start a financial plan was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. You don't have to have it all figured out. We want to be financially healthy. Start today.
This
That's
has been my favorite episode.
wow.
Yeah.
That's high praise.
I've received more goosebumps slash chills based on our conversation today than I can recall over the last 13 episodes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Should we ruin it and talk about the NBA?
Yes.
As we ring this up, last night we were texting and we were talking about big three trios in the NBA. All right.
Was that last night or 2 nights ago?
It felt like last night, but it could have been 2 nights ago. There's been a lot of basketball in the air.
It was
Tis
probably
the,
last night.
tis the season. And I found an article from the Sportster online where they identified the top 20 trios of all time.
All right. How far
Now,
back are we going? Let's be careful here. I don't want his wilt stuff.
okay, this did go back like 70 years,
Yeah.
none of which were in the top 10. Now, I'm going to give you number five because this is on the very edge of my basketball
Can we
periphery.
be honest real quick? Like, is this the reason that we even have this podcast so you can run your your sports stuff here?
95%.
Okay.
This is probably 95% of the weighting. All right. So I'm going to give you one that I think we should just exclude because it's a little bit in the old era. And so number five was Magic, Kareem, and James Worthy.
No, you include.
We're going to include that.
That
Okay.
is modern basketball, in my opinion.
Okay. That's when I first started watching. I think I only saw Kareem play like one season. I do have a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar starting lineup.
But those dudes could play ball. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I think if they're number five, I think that's underrated. The one
Absolutely.
the one in I so the one that you mentioned last night, and I don't know if this was your number one, but number eight was Paul Pierce, KG, and Ray Allen.
Not my number one, just
And I
wanted
gave
on the
that a
board.
min. I said that was very min. All right. Number four, this was the one in my head that I thought was going to be number one. So we have LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh was number four. All
Okay.
right.
Properly rated, I'm going to say.
Number three, we have this was interesting. Steph, Clay, and Draymond. They
Mhm.
had Draymond higher than KD.
Yeah, I like that.
Number two, Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman.
Okay.
Do you have any idea what number one was? And I will say that neither of us mentioned it last night.
I'm going to guess it is and Duncan Ginobili and Parker.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it. I cannot believe you got that. I thought I stumped you.
I here's only reason I got that is I could tell where this list was going. It was going to the conversation we had as there's one basketball.
Yeah.
That's why LeBron and those guys are four. And
Yeah.
there's one ball. You've got to have to the point you made of like the situational guys.
I thought that was a lot of love for Duncan, Manu, and Tony Parker.
No, it was
Uh,
a little odd that Kobe, Shaq, and Phil in the third didn't make the list.
I know. Insert Mark Madsden, right?
Yeah,
Kobe,
like
Shaq,
just give me a
whoever.
guy.
It doesn't matter,
Yeah,
right?
Nick Nielsen.
Exactly. We're okay. I can space the floor. I'll stay out of your way. Put me
Yeah,
in a
you'll
corner
you'll get
somewhere.
some foul work in.
Yeah. No, I just thought that was really good. I thought that was fun. But I do think if you consider Magic, Kareem, and James Worthy, three Hall of Famers, three top 50 players of all time, it's hard for me to see them at number five.
Yeah, that's below. What about my Philly guys? Did Moses and any of those guys make it up the list?
I think there was one Philly group that was somewhere between like 15 and 20.
Okay.
We'll put the link in the show notes.
Oh, will we?
Try to give the Sportster some love. Also, last night, Indiana State, the Sycamores, they lost in the NIT.
Sorry.
One of the great runs in NIT history. They deserve to be in the NCAA tournament. 32-6 on the season. Their coach,
Let's pause there real quick. Why did they get snubbed?
Missouri Valley Conference, right? They're just not in a Power Five conference, and everybody would rather take the eighth place team in the ACC or whoever than the second. They were the regular season champions. They lost in the championship game of the conference tournament to Drake, and I believe Drake got beat by Washington State.
Would you qualify their run in the NIT more successful or gratifying to the program
Yes,
versus them getting knocked out in the first weekend?
100%.
Yeah,
So
okay.
in the NIT Final Four was played at Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. And it's an hour from Terre Haute. Hinkle Fieldhouse was packed last night. It's supposed to be a neutral court. It wasn't. It was 99% Indiana State fans, maybe 1% Seton Hall fans.
I mean,
Uh,
going to the dance would be cool, obviously, as
but nothing like this, right? This weekend there's 8 teams in college basketball playing. They were one of 8 teams still playing.
Mhm.
Now, would they rather be in the Final Four in the NCAA tournament? Of
Well,
course,
that's different. They're not, let's be
of
realistic. Yeah.
course. But their head coach is probably going to be leaving and probably be announced as we record the show if it hasn't already. But I thought he had a great quote that could apply to anything that we do, and I think a good thing to close the show with. To be great at anything, you have to be willing to have your heart broken. Tonight, we're heartbroken.
Say it again.
To be great at anything, you have to be willing to have your heart broken. You have to love what you do. You have to put it all out there. I mean, I think that's great. Great season that they had.
I love it. I think, as we're recording this, we got a little Caitlin Clark action tonight. I don't know where this ends for her, but I'm putting my money on the Gamecocks, coached by Miss Dawn Staley,
Yeah.
to run the table here.
Anybody but UConn, right? I don't want to see a double UConn national champion.
You're going men's.
Isn't UConn in the women's as well?
Are they in the Final Four as well?
I thought they were. I
Yeah,
could
we
be
don't need
wrong
that.
on that.
I've got a problem with UConn just because I'm still
Rhode,
butthurt from
because
Dan.
You're a Rhode Island guy.
That and Dan Hurley left and now is dominating, which I can't blame him for. But
Caitlin Clark is the best thing in college basketball.
I have a note here that's so controversial that I've debated not asking, but I might ask. Do you have a minute to answer it?
Let's go for it, if I can.
Is Caitlin Clark a ball hog?
Oh, well, I'd have to see more. I mean, yes, probably. Was Kobe Bryant a ball hog? Yes, right. I think she does it for the greater good. I think the ends justify the means.
Now
But
there's some legendary ball hogs that have worked, right?
yeah,
Michael, Kobe, AI, Steph.
there's going to have to come a time, and potentially it's, this weekend where she has to be willing to share the sugar, and teams are going to, these really talented teams that she's going to face are going to throw everything at her. And their ability to win these games in the Final Four might be the ability for Jordan to be willing to pass to Paxson.
Boy, that's a risky pass.
But the girls around her are really good too. I mean, I think that might be, the only sad part about some of
Is
the
AI really
but
dishing the rock in the last 4 seconds? Like, come on.
Jordan did, and it won him
Oh,
some championships.
man.
Steve Kerr hit a big dagger. John Paxson, for every great player, there's Robert Horry, there's Big Shot Bob burying threes that are just daggers into people's souls. And if Iowa is going to win a championship, it's probably going to have to be somebody else that throws the dagger in.
What a fun show. I've got plenty of stuff I'll punt till episode 15. We'll bring it back. Have a great weekend. And thank you sincerely. Great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
We'll make the next one even better.
High praise or high bar.
All right.